In the wildlands of the Serengeti, where predators rule and death is a constant shadow, there lived a lion that defied the most basic rule of the savannah. The strong survive, but the wounded die. He did not just survive, he endured. He did not just return, he reigned again. They called him Seabo, not a name of royalty, not a name soaked in blood like the Mapogos or the kings of Kruger. Just a letter, a mark. But to those who watched him rise, fall, and rise again, it was more than enough. That name came to mean something more than survival. It meant resistance, it meant triumph over what should have been final. Seabo was not the largest lion. He was not the most brutal. He did not build a kingdom through fear. He did not dominate through rage. He fought when he had to, he retreated when he must. And somehow he always came back. He was the lion no one could kill. Not rivals, not infection, not time. His story is not carved in a trail of blood, but in claw marks that healed, in bones that refused to break, in a body that limped but never gave in. His victories were quiet but monumental. His legend spread not through terror but through awe. This is not a story of a conqueror. It is the story of a lion who refused to die again and again, until the wild itself finally let him go. This is the story of Seabo, the lion they couldn't kill. The Serengeti was a kingdom without walls, ruled not by bloodlines, but by strength and timing. Lions did not inherit power. They fought for it, earned it, or died chasing it. Coalitions of males moved like shifting borders, rising and falling in the endless rhythm of challenge and conquest. It was a land built on cycles, of birth, of dominance, of disappearance. Seabo entered this world not with a roar, but with time. He was not born into greatness. He was not part of a legendary bloodline. But in the vast plains near the Samitu region, he began to take shape. He was lean, golden, with a mane that darkened with the years. He did not lead immediately. He watched. He followed. He learned. As he matured, Seabo formed an alliance with two brothers, Hilda and his sibling, both strong, aggressive, and relentless. Together, the trio began taking over prides. Seabo was the calmer presence, often submissive in the face of the brothers' boldness. But this did not make him weak. It made him patient. He understood the cost of impulsiveness. In a world where most lions lived short, brutal lives, Seabo played the long game. For years, their coalition ruled a stretch of land that included the prized females of the central Serengeti. The trio mated, hunted, defended. They repelled challengers and enjoyed the spoils of power. But peace in lion terms is just a pause between wars. The threats came quietly at first, young coalitions testing boundaries, lone males sniffing at the edges of territory. Seabo, ever cautious, would often retreat and return later when the risk had passed. But not all risks could be avoided. Not all enemies announced themselves. And in 2009, a coalition of 3 younger, bolder males arrived with teeth ready and eyes fixed on the throne. They weren't interested in testing, they came to conquer. And Seabo, caught unaware, was the first to fall. If stories like this speak to you, tap like and let us know your thoughts in the comments. It helps us keep these legends alive. It happened swiftly, as most lion battles do. Seabo had wandered. From the pride, perhaps to patrol, perhaps to rest, and in that window his enemies struck. The three males, young and ruthless, ambushed him near the Serengeti Valley. Alone, outnumbered and unprepared, Seabo didn't stand a chance. They dragged him down with claws and fangs, biting deep into his hips and groin. These were not wounds made to kill cleanly. They were wounds meant to cripple, to humiliate, to remove a rival from the map without ending him quickly. Rangers found Seabo the next morning, collapsed in the grass, his body torn and swollen, soaked in blood and dust. His breathing was shallow, his eyes were open, but there was no strength left in him. Lions don't get second chances. In the Serengeti, a wound like that is a sentence. Infection comes fast, scavengers follow, and the pride moves on. The world expected Seabo to die, but he didn't. He disappeared. For weeks there were no sightings. No tracks, no carcass. Some said he had crawled away to die in silence. Others believed he had been eaten, but the rangers kept watching. And then, almost a month later, a lean, limping figure emerged from the bushes, scarred, ragged, but unmistakably alive. Seabo had survived. His wounds were visible, his gait uneven, but his eyes burned with the same quiet intensity. He had endured alone, without a coalition, without protection, without help. No lion should have made it back. But Seabo did. It wasn't just survival, it was resurrection. The wild had tried to erase him, and he refused to vanish. He wasn't healed, he wasn't whole, but he was alive, and that was enough. The savannah remembers strength, but it never forgets a miracle. When Seabo returned from the dead, it wasn't with the roar of vengeance, it was with quiet, deliberate steps. He did not storm back into his old territory. He did not seek confrontation. He moved through the grasslands, like a ghost, keeping to shadows, watching from the distance. The wounds had changed him. He had lost mass. His mane was thinner. His right hind leg dragged slightly, a constant reminder of the ambush. But he was still a lion. And in his silence, there was something terrifying, because he should have been gone. Most lions, once defeated so thoroughly, never rise again. They die in exile or are finished by hyenas, disease, or hunger. But Seabo's return unsettled the balance. Prides remembered him. The rangers who had written him off now tracked his every step with disbelief. He was not just a lion anymore. He was a question the wild couldn't answer. He stayed on the fringes, not challenging the males who had taken his former domain. He avoided direct confrontation, hunted alone, and began to rebuild. Slowly, carefully, as if testing the world's patience. It wasn't power he sought. It was a place to stand again. In time, Seabo encountered another coalition, males who had not fought him before. He joined them, not as a leader, but as a survivor. They accepted him, perhaps sensing the experience, etched into his scars. Or perhaps, as nature sometimes allows, they simply knew he had earned his place. Together, they began claiming new ground. Not vast, not glorious, but real. Seabo wasn't chasing revenge. He was chasing relevance, and the wild, for reasons it never explains, let him have it. He had not just returned. He had rewritten the rules. The second reign of Seabo was quieter than his first, but no less significant. It was a reign not of conquest, but of endurance. As the years passed, he regained strength. His limp never left him, but his presence grew. He sired cubs with multiple lionesses, protected territory with his coalition, and established a rhythm of leadership marked not by aggression, but by caution. He knew the cost of recklessness. He had worn it into his bones. Unlike most dominant males, Seabo avoided unnecessary fights. He let younger males pass when the threat was avoidable. He shifted territory when competition grew too fierce. To some, this may have seemed like weakness, but it was strategy. It was survival refined into instinct, and nature rewarded him. While coalitions rose and fell around him, while prides were broken and remade, Seabo remained. Lions born after his first fall grew up under his shadow. Guides pointed to him as an anomaly, a mystery of the ecosystem. Tourists watched him walk, scarred, deliberate, dignified, and whispered as if in the presence of something holy. He became more than a lion. He became a symbol, not of dominance, but of resilience, not of brutality, but of wisdom. In a world where everything is earned through violence, he became proof that survival is its own kind of power. Seabo lived to be over 16 years old, twice the average for a male in the wild. That alone made him a legend. But it was the way he lived that made him unforgettable. He did not chase legacy, and yet it followed him. He was not feared like a tyrant. He was respected like a ghost that refused to fade. There was no final battle, no ambush, no roar echoing across the plains. Seaboy's end came as quietly as his return. The years had worn him down. His muscles softened, his mane thinned. His coalition had moved on or fallen. The cubs he sired had grown, and new males were beginning to patrol the edges of his once secure space. But there were no challengers, no final enemy waiting to strike. Perhaps they feared him, perhaps they honored him, or perhaps the wild, in rare mercy, simply let him go. In his last months, he was seen alone more often, resting beneath acacia trees, walking slowly along familiar paths. Rangers who had known him for over a decade began to speak of him like a monument still standing against time. And then he was gone. No blood trail, no carcass dragged by hyenas, no evidence of struggle, just absence. Like a breath released back into the earth, it was the most unthinkable ending of all. A wild lion, survivor of violence, politics, injury, and exile, dying not by tooth or claw, but by age. It was not a fall, it was a fading. In a land where strength is measured in battles and legacy and bloodlines, Seabo created something different. He lived through what should have ended him. He rose again when the wild had already decided his story was over. He ruled, not through fear, but through persistence. His legend was not born in domination, but in defiance. No one remembers the names of the lions who attacked him, but his name remains. Seabo, a letter, a code, a myth. He didn't change the ecosystem. He didn't rewrite the structure of lion society, but he carved out something almost no male lion ever receives: peace. He was a warrior who walked away from war, a king who didn't need a crown to be recognized, a ghost who stayed long enough to become part of the landscape, and when he finally vanished, it was not with violence but with grace. To survive once is natural, to survive twice is rare. To live on in memory long after the body is gone, that is legend. Seabo didn't defeat other lions. He defeated the fate designed for them all. He didn't just survive the wild, he outlived it.